All right, joining me on the desk now is the Nationals leader, David Littleproud. Thanks for your time, David Littleproud. Let's start on the Voice referendum. What did you make of this poll this morning? It's pretty devastating for the government, isn't it?
Oh, well, look, I think it'd be a mistake to take the polls as they are and think that that's going to be the result. There's a lot of hard work to go. And in fact, the yes case are probably going to spend close to $100 million. There's no way in the world that no case has got that. So there's a lot to play out over the next 5.5 weeks.
You'd rather be no than yes, though, wouldn't you? Look at that.
Well, I mean, I think what we've got to understand is that Australians don't understand what they're voting on. And while they rolled out a catchy tune, the line within it is, "You're the voice, try to understand it." Australian people don't understand it. They've conflated constitutional recognition with a model that we've had before. We've had a representative body before, and for us in the bush, we bear the scars of that. That's where the gap hasn't been closed, and repeating that would be a mistake. So we're not getting complacent. There's a lot of work, a lot of grassroots work that needs to happen, and Warren Mundine and Jacinta Price are doing an outstanding job. And my job is to continue to support and continue to prosecute also what Australians are really worried about.
Well, Anthony Albanese, yeah, of course, but Anthony Albanese says Aboriginal people wanted the voice. What do you say to that?
Well, there was 250 Indigenous Australians that turned up to the Uluru gathering. And let me say that he says that is the Constitutional Convention that determined the intent and the wording of the question and the change to our Constitution. The Constitution is owned by every Australian, and there should have been a Constitutional Convention where eminent minds and all Australians could contribute. But that was taken away. That due process wasn't given to us. And unfortunately, I think the Prime Minister's misread this, and Indigenous communities are divided on this. It's not a universal support of this, and particularly the further west you go and the remote you go, the less understanding, the less likely they have of this proposal.
What do you think it means for the PM if it fails? I mean, he's still ahead in the polls pretty comfortably.
Oh, look, I think obviously this is a lot of political capital that the Prime Minister's invested in this, and it'll be damaging to him, but it won't be the end. I dare say by Christmas, Australians will be more worried about how they're going to put the Christmas ham on the table, and by January, how they're going to pay for Christmas and then pay for the kids to get back to school. Because this government, all they've managed to do in 16 months is divide our country and drive up your cost of living. And those cost of living...
Well, inflation's coming down, though. Rates are going to pause now.
But look where they're coming down on. Discretionary spend. The discretionary spend's come down. It's your fixed expenditure that's going up. And that's because of the levers they're pulling, particularly around energy policy. And that's feeding into food. Food processors are paying 3, sometimes 4 times more what they were than 12 months ago. But energy's still going up, and it's continuing to go up because of the energy policy of 82% renewables by 2030. Their net zero plan, they brought it forward 20 years to 2030, and that's putting pressure on supply of firming power.
All right, look, second referendum, just what we need, isn't it? Another referendum. And Peter Dutton said it on Sunday Agenda, and you came out and said, yeah, OK, I'm with that.
Well, that's been a long-standing policy of the opposition to have constitutional recognition.
Yeah, but in government, you never delivered it.
Well, at that juncture, I don't think the nation was ready for it.
Have you discussed this with him, either yesterday or in recent months?
Obviously, and my narrative has...
And so in the first term, we'd see a second referendum?
Well, and the timing so long as due process, and the Nationals have been very clear on this, that we need to go through due process of a constitutional...
So a constitutional convention in the first term on it?
Well, and then obviously, I think there's pragmatic ways that you deal with this to reduce costs, that you align it with...
An election.
General election. And that's the common sense solution.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
It wouldn't be as divisive as what this one is. The Prime Minister's divided us because of the question he's asked. If it was a unifying question about constitutional recognition, it would be on the vibe. Because that's what it is.
Won't people just want this issue to go away, though, after the Voice referendum?
Well, I don't think it's going to go away. And I think Australians want to address this. We as political leaders need to show political leadership that we don't continue to divide the country like the Prime Minister has, but to give practical, pragmatic solutions. And Peter has been long-standing on this, as have I, that if this was just about constitutional recognition, we could support. But we need to look at pragmatic ways to deliver that and economical ways, because there is a cost of living crisis out there.
Well, there's a bit of a problem for you in government because you oppose regional voices, bodies, and Peter Dutton supports them. So how does that work?
Well, we'll work through the detail of that. It's
so you might end up agreeing to it.
So Peter is talking about regional and local solutions, and the Nationals have made it very clear. The problem with regional solutions is you're talking in practical sense, hundreds of thousands of square kilometres, and it's the Indigenous communities in rural and remote that miss out under that model. Whereas what we're saying, if you go to a local model where you empower local elders, that is how you get to close the gap. And that's about an intervention, a 2023 intervention, getting the bureaucracy out of Canberra, sitting around town halls and campfires, devising those programs with local elders, because if they've got buy-in, you actually get results.
All right, let's talk about Qantas Qatar Airways issue. Is this resonating in the bush?
It's resonating everywhere. I mean, you've got a cost of living crisis, you've got a government that's talking about competition policy and reviewing it, but excluding airlines.
All right, well, the PM just said in question time.
But just think about the bush.
Okay.
So you want to go long reach to Brisbane at the moment, it's over $1,500 return. And that's a lot of money for someone to go down and have to get medical treatment. So what we need is more competition, and what we're saying is, and Bridget McKenzie's leading this, she's asked for a Senate inquiry. We hope that the Greens and the crossbench will come on this. Let's open up the books. Let's have a look at this, because it's not just tourism, it's about having more supply as well as putting more supply out, because agricultural product goes underneath the feet of many of those passengers on Qatar Airlines back into the Middle East.
The PM just told the House Alan Joyce never lobbied him over blocking Qatar flights. Do you believe him?
Well, he's said that in Parliament, so obviously if he's not being truthful, he's got a real problem. But I take him on face value. If he's gone into Parliament,
so is it as big an issue then for him as the opposition's been saying it is?
Well, let's just see. He has a representative in the Transport Minister as to what representation was made to her. And what were her actions and advice. And that's why...
OK, flagging your next question tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah, well, if they have nothing to hide, then the Senate inquiry, I think that Bridget McKenzie's trying to lead, as well as the order of production of documents. We've asked for that, and we want it by next Monday.
He just also said Michael McCormack, former Nationals leader, former minister, put a safeguards mechanism around the last Qatar flights approved because of market share. Do you know anything about that? Do you have a view on that?
I don't. I don't have any details on that.
So it sounds like your government was cautious about Qatar Air too.
Well, depending on the circumstances of which the application was made. So I don't think I'm at liberty to get into the details that Michael is being quoted on and whether Michael's being verbaled. I think it's important for Michael to be able to articulate that. I don't have the details. I was the simple old agriculture minister at that point, so I shouldn't speak for Michael, but I'm sure that he's able to articulate quite clearly the decisions that he made.
Did it come to Cabinet under the former government?
None that I can't speak about Cabinet, but none that I can ever recall.
David Littleproud, Nationals leader, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.